All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So now that Bill Belichick has planted his flag in Chapel Hill as North Carolina's new football head coach, multiple reports have surfaced that prior to Belichick taking the job down on Tobacco Road, that the six-time Super Bowl winning head coach actually reached out to the New York Jets of all teams about their head coaching vacancy. And as you read the room, you could see that the Jets simply were not interested. Now, it was nearly 25 years ago when Bill Parcells stepped down as the head coach of the Jets, which was supposed to pave the way for the then team's defensive coordinator, Bill Belichick, to be the New York Jets' next head coach. However, a day later, Belichick left the Jets at the altar to become the head coach of the New England Patriots. And of course, the rest from there is history. We've seen a bitter feud between the Patriots organization and the Jets organization for the last 30 years. And it really started when Bill Parcells left the Patriots as their head coach to become the Jets head coach. And of course, the rest is history. But nonetheless, it only went up to another level when Belichick went to the Patriots, started winning all of those Super Bowls with Tom Brady as his quarterback, Spygate, Eric Mangini, who was an assistant coach under Bill Belichick, going to the Jets. It's been so much. It's been a lot of bad blood, and they're basically the Hatfields and the McCoys of the National Football League, if you will. But at the end of the day, almost 25 years ago, Belichick didn't want to be the head coach of the Jets after the ownership change there, which saw Woody Johnson become the team's owner. But here in 2024, should Woody Johnson have simply sucked up his pride and at least talked to Bill Belichick? I'll tell you like this, okay, just playing devil's advocate here. A Belichick to the Jets would have drummed up a lot of interest in this franchise that has not been there in quite some time. Okay, we're talking about a Jets team right now that is well on their way, and they have been eliminated for that matter for missing the playoffs for now a 15th consecutive year. All right, it's pardon me, 14th consecutive year. Excuse me, but nonetheless, you're talking about a team that since they last made the playoffs in 2010, they've only had one winning season, okay, during that stretch. And you're looking at it again, this is their fifth consecutive season where they've lost at least 10 games. And I guarantee you there are more coming. But nonetheless, should the Jets have maybe reached out to Bill Belichick? Okay, that's the number one question right here. You look at it with the way that Belichick's tenure ended with the Patriots last year. Are there some teams around the NFL that are afraid of bringing him in? I don't know. But you look at it, maybe some teams, and this is hypothetically speaking, maybe some teams around the NFL, a la the Jets, would be worried about a potential power struggle with a guy like Belichick. I mean, every place that he's been in the NFL, he's been the de facto GM. He had that role with Cleveland, and of course, with New England. And part of his undoing with the Patriots was the fact that he wasn't that good as far as drafting and evaluating and developing guys, and it really showed once Tom Brady left. And of course, honestly, the last couple of years that Brady was there, his drafting was not good. Okay, it was a lot of Brady, a lot of bringing in veteran players, and then of course, the rest was history. But nonetheless, if you are Woody Johnson, what do you have to lose by at least reaching out and having a phone call with Bill Belichick? Because yes, Belichick left the Jets at the altar nearly 25 years ago. Yes, he was critical of Woody Johnson during his broadcast time during this NFL season. Okay, yes, there's probably still a lot of bad blood between the Patriots and the Jets. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about a guy in Bill Belichick who has the potential to help you win some football games, and again, this is hypothetically speaking, why not at least put out a feeler if you're the Jets? Because if you are the Jets, when was the last time that this franchise hired themselves an established head coach? When was the last time that this franchise brought in an established person to run their front office? Okay, it's been a month of Sundays since we could say that about this Jets organization. At the end of the day, there's a big reason why the Jets are the Jets. There's a big reason why they haven't made the postseason since 2010. And again, I keep harping on this to give you an idea of how bad that playoff drought is for the Jets. And of course, it's only getting worse. They've expanded the postseason now in the National Football League. So 7 out of the 16 teams in each conference get to the postseason. The Jets still can't get to the postseason. The Jets have not won their division since 2002. And for anybody who's out there listening, or anybody who's going to check this out in the archives at a later date and time, just ask yourself, what were you doing in 2002? That was the last time that the Jets won this division. Happy Duck, what is going on this Saturday evening? You're saying that would have been a life's work of turning the Jets program around. Kudos to you on that one, okay? He knew how much work that would have been. That's a damn life's work for that mess. They would take years of drafting correctly. And I'll tell you like this. The Jets have been a bad organization for a very long time. And the Jets will continue to be a very bad organization for years to come. Okay, you think about it. Woody Johnson on his stewardship, if you will, as a Jets team owner, he came in, post Leon Hess to the Jets. We saw what Bill Parcells had done with that team. Of course, Woody Johnson's first year in 2000, the Jets went 9-7. They started that year, I believe, 5-0 or 6-0, and they collapsed down the stretch. And of course, the rest is history. It's been an off again, on again thing throughout the 2000s as far as them making the postseason. Looked like they had something with Mangini. They fired him after the Brett Favre debacle in 2008. They brought in Rex Ryan. His first 2 years were nice, and then he quickly went downhill. And it's been downhill for the Jets ever since. And I keep saying this, and I'm going to continue to say this. This organization, first and foremost, can't get the quarterback position right. They need to stop, reaching out to Green Bay Packers to take their leftovers at the position. They haven't developed a quarterback in quite some time. And I keep telling people, Joe Namath ain't walking through the door anytime soon at Florham Park. But nonetheless, if you are the Jets, this is a bad organization. And, this is what bad organizations do. You think about the Chicago Bears. There's rumors out there that former Bears quarterback Jim Harbaugh did reach out to them about potentially being their head coach before, he got the Chargers job. We know what Harbaugh can do in the NFL. He proved it with the 49ers. We saw what he did at Michigan. We're seeing how he's turning around things for the Chargers. You have to at least take a feeler. Again, what happened 25 years ago, or nearly 25 years ago, between Belichick and the Jets was then. People change. Okay. You could have, reached out to somebody on a business deal maybe 2 or 3 years ago. The mindset might have been different. Okay. But I think at the end of the day, it was at least, or it would have at least have been worth a conversation if you were Woody Johnson and Bill Belichick. And of course, that never happened. So another question is going to be, will the Jets regret not talking to Belichick? Yes and no, because I feel like the Jets have to go out there and find themselves a GM, and then of course the question is going to be, is Woody Johnson going to allow the GM to hire his head coach, or is Woody Johnson going to be the meddling owner that continues to screw things up? So I'll let you, fill in the blanks on that one. But nonetheless, I think the Jet fans will regret the Jets not at least reaching out to Bill Belichick. I don't think Woody Johnson will, because at the end of the day, Woody Johnson's ego continues to get in the way of any potential success for this Jets team. And again, it's one of those where whomever is hired to be the general manager for the Jets for next season, whomever is hired to be the next head coach, Woody Johnson's still going to be the guy that's cutting the checks. So that right there is a big issue. And of course, you just look at the Jets' record since Woody Johnson has been their owner. And of course, it speaks for itself. Like I said before, it's been a month of Sundays since the Jets has hired themselves an established person to lead their organization. That right there is an issue. But for Belichick, and I mentioned this when I talked about him getting the North Carolina job. I'm going to throw it out there again. Will he? Will we ever see Bill Belichick coach in the National Football League again? Um, there's a possibility of it. Okay. I'm not going to close the door on his potential getting another coaching gig in the National Football League because, hey, who's to say that Bill Belichick, and I'm just hypothetically speaking, let's say he goes out there and knocks it out of the box as a coach at North Carolina. And maybe by doing so, he's able to pique the interest of the right owner in the National Football League, and they're going to give him a call. I guarantee you, Bill Belichick got a 5-year deal at Chapel Hill with North Carolina. But for the right price and the right opportunity, I would see Bill Belichick come back to the NFL. You could see that he still loves football, hence why he was doing, TV spots for this season. Bill Belichick still wants to coach. Bill Belichick wants to coach, okay? And it's one of those where he wants to be a teacher, but it's all about adjusting and adapting. Now, of course, throughout Bill Belichick's tenure, he has been a defensive guru in the National Football League, and a lot of that has come down to adjusting and adapting. I think he has to do that as a head coach going forward, as well as his personnel decisions. So maybe, just maybe, okay, if Belichick can go out there and show that during his tenure at North Carolina, maybe somebody can sit back and say, hey, you know what? Let's give Belichick another shot. So I think Belichick knows that the book is not closed officially on him potentially coming to the NFL. Excuse me, the NFL. And I know that Belichick still wants to go out there and coach in the NFL. My personal opinion. I think he just gauged the room to see what's up, and he could see, you know what, I'm not going to get another head coaching job this cycle. I don't want to sit out for a second consecutive year. Let me go out here and take a stab at the college game because I think the ego of Bill Belichick wants to go out there and break down Shula's record for the most wins by a head coach in NFL history. Happy Duck, you're saying Carolina has promise as a football program. He likes that kind of challenge. Probably. Oh, listen, Bill Belichick definitely wants that challenge because he's never coached at the collegiate level. Clearly, we know that, but he is a coach. And at the end of the day, no head coach in NFL history has won more Super Bowl championships than he has. 6 as a head coach, 2 as a defensive coordinator. And between defensive coordinator and head coach, you know, Bill Belichick has coached up some of the greatest defensive schemes that we have seen in NFL history. I'll tell anybody, go back and watch Super Bowl number 25 when the Giants upset the Buffalo Bills. Giants were huge underdogs in that game, and they slowed down that K-gun offense of Jim Kelly and company in that Super Bowl. And you remember Buffalo in those days was tearing it up against everybody. And I always tell people, go back and watch Super Bowl 25 and go back and watch Super Bowl 36 when the Patriots upset the St. Louis Rams, okay, with the greatest show on turf. And Bill Belichick basically had the same defensive game plan in both of those games, okay? And this was a time when I was a youngster, I was in college, okay? I told people then, I told people on a show, on a college show, I said, watch out for this Patriots defense in that game. They all looked at me like I was crazy. All right. But nonetheless, Bill Belichick can coach up a defensive game plan. And we've seen what he's done with defenders throughout his career in the NFL. Now, the teacher in Bill Belichick, I think, is going to captivate youngsters at North Carolina. It's just a matter of, the NILs, the transfer portal, and all that other stuff. How is Bill Belichick going to be able to deal with those things. We got to wait and see. But nonetheless, I think he has an itch to coach, and I think even though he's at a college level now with North Carolina, it's still one of those where I think NFL eyes are going to be on him because if Bill Belichick can go down there and have success, like I said, somebody might give him an opportunity to get back into the league. And like I said, money talks. If the right opportunity comes along, then you know what? Bill Belichick's back in the game. Hey, I'll tell you like this. When Jim Harbaugh left the 49ers to return to college and go to Michigan, me personally, I felt that we might not see Jim Harbaugh again at the pro ranks. I really thought, Michigan was going to be it. Home came calling, and it was a building process to get to that national championship level. But I think, of course, Michigan winning, and I think the NCAA investigation ratcheted it up. But we know that Harbaugh what did have previous college success before returning to Michigan. We know that. The only difference is we don't know what Belichick can do at this point. But I'll tell you like this: Belichick definitely has something to prove. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and lead North Carolina to an ACC championship or anything like this, but all eyes are going to be on North Carolina this year. And my point is this: look at how we're talking about, and other people are talking about North Carolina this week, football wise. And North Carolina is a basketball school. No disrespect to some of the great players that have come out of that school, like Dre Bly, Julius Peppers, and Lawrence Taylor. But nonetheless, when you think about North Carolina athletics, basketball is the first thing that comes to mind. We're talking about North Carolina football, in spite of the fact that they went 6-6 this year, and in spite of the fact that we've got the college football playoff right around the corner, and of course, the Heisman was handed out tonight to Travis Hunter of Colorado. My point is, people could have been talking about the New York Jets in the same vein if they, at the very least, had reached out and talked to Belichick if he was willing to come there. But for me, some people might say, well, with the NFL looking like they might have turned their back on Bill Belichick, is he a martyr now? Um, I don't think so because I think Belichick is going to go out there and he knows that this is an opportunity for him to prove what he can and cannot do. So it's got to be wait and see. Nick's 100, you're saying he should be thinking about retirement after this job. He has nothing left to prove. Well, I'm sure that Bill Belichick has a nice chunk of change in the bank from so many years in the National Football League. Bill Belichick had a lot of stroke within the Patriots organization. But I still think he wants to coach, and it's something, and he wants to teach. And I think that's something, being that he's done it for so long, I think that he still has that itch to get it done. Now, aside from the New York Jets, I'm also going to say this: the fact that Belichick took the North Carolina job, I think it shows you that maybe the New York Giants are going to bring back Joe Shane and Brian Dayball for 2025 because, of course, once Belichick left New England, the thing that people kept bringing up were the Giants because, of course, Belichick, really made his name as a defensive coordinator with the Giants. Of course, he was their defensive coordinator in 86 and 90 in those Super Bowl seasons. The Giants had some phenomenal defensive units during Belichick's time there with the likes of Lawrence Taylor, Pepper Johnson, Harry Carson, Carl Banks, George Martin. I can go right down the list. But that shows you that. And I think also it shows you that, again, nobody wants to deal with Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys because Jerry still wants to show you that he's the smartest guy in the room. And of course, he's not giving up any power. So I'll tell you like this. Um, if you're a Jet fan, you really shouldn't jump out of the barn with excitement, if you will, as far as the next potential head coach for this team. Why? Because again, who signs the checks at Florham Park? One Woody Johnson. What have the Jets done on Woody Johnson's watch? Absolutely nothing. Okay. So I mean, Belichick left the Jets at the altar, like I said, back in 2000. A year later, He was in the Super Bowl with the Patriots, and of course, one of the greatest runs in NFL history was off to the races. It's the New York Jets. They find ways to screw things up. They screw up most Sunday afternoons. They screw up with their personnel decisions, and apparently, right here, they screw up in not even taking phone calls to somebody that potentially wants a job and could potentially change the fortunes of that franchise. But it wouldn't be the Jets if they didn't do things like that. Um, you're saying deflate gate aside, Belichick is great. Well, I'll tell you like this. Um, I think what the beginning of beginning of the end rather of Belichick's time in New England came in 2020. Why? Because what did Tom Brady do that year? His very first year after leaving the Patriots, he went down to Tampa, won a Super Bowl. The Bucks were always in Super Bowl contention while Brady was there, and then of course, with each year, the Patriots got a little bit worse and worse and worse. So I think that was the beginning of the end for him. And of course, Robert Kraft was not thrilled about that. You're saying, yeah, Belichick wouldn't get along in Dallas. I'll tell you like this, man. Just changing gears quickly here. You look at it, Jerry Jones, his ego has continually got in the way of any potential success for the Dallas Cowboys. And it's been like that for about 30 years. This is a guy who ran Jimmy Johnson, a two-time Super Bowl winning head coach, out of town. Dallas did come back and get a win in 95 with Barry Switzer as their head coach. But I remember watching that Dallas Cowboys team. Okay, they could have easily won two more championships during the 90s. They probably would have won at least two more championships in the 90s had Jerry Jones not run Jimmy Johnson out of town. You then come back eventually after you're tired of the yes men at the head coaching position. If you're Jerry Jones, you bring in Bill Parcells. And of course, you know, when you bring in a guy like Bill Parcells, you've got to allow him to do his job. And ever since then, it's been nothing but yes men that Jerry Jones brings in. And you know what? The Dallas Cowboys are exactly where they are. I mean, at the very best, they can get to the playoffs, maybe possibly win a game. And then, of course, if they win a game in the postseason, the media goes crazy, crazy. They're talking about Jerry's team, and that's it. But at the end of the day, Jerry doesn't care about winning. And I'll tell you why. You look at the Dallas Cowboys, they just came out by Forbes. They're valued as the most valuable franchise in professional sports, okay, in North America. So that's all that Jerry worries about. He's got his phenomenal stadium, he's got his pocket full of money, he's got people talking about his team. But guess what? The Cowboys ain't going to win no time soon, okay? That's the bottom line. So again, Belichick there would have been an absolute disaster. And of course, if you're going to bring in a guy like Belichick at the NFL level, he has to have some type of say in personnel decisions. You look at North Carolina, the college game is a little bit different. Everything goes through the head coach. Now, Belichick is also bringing in another former NFL executive, Michael Lombardi, as North Carolina's football GM. And of course, a lot of football programs are going the football GM route in this NIL and transfer portal era. Again, everything goes through Bill Belichick there. And I know that Bill Belichick has not coached at the college level yet. Of course, that's going to change in a couple of months. But nonetheless, I know that schools typically are impatient with head coaches, but I guarantee you this: Bill Belichick's going to have some stroke down there as far as how are things done at that football program, and I guarantee you the people in Chapel Hill are going to leave him alone at least for year number one. But nonetheless, I think this was a potential opportunity gone by the wayside that the Jets missed. They should have at least taken that phone call. They should have at least sat down and talked to Bill Belichick face to face, see if there were any differences that could have been worked out. But you know what? We'll never know why, because that ship has left the port. The Jets are still the Jets. Let's see what works out for how it works out for Belichick down in Chapel Hill with the heels, and let's see what the next thing is to come as far as a potential return, potentially to the NFL for one Bill Belichick. But folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as
Mhm.
always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Just before I sign off, Happy Duck, you're saying I like to look at how Jones pays players. I'm sure that there's a couple of players that are getting paid huge amounts more than others. Jerry Jones does favoritism pay scales, I bet. Well, I'll tell you like this. Jerry Jones really thinks that he is the smartest guy in the room. And I feel like, you know what? It worked the first time around when Jerry, took over the Cowboys. You had Jimmy. But nonetheless, if you are the Dallas Cowboys, you're never going to have another setup like that again. And that championship run that we saw for the Cowboys with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, that was built off of that Herschel Walker trade. No team in the NFL is ever going to make a trade like that again. And of course, Jimmy Johnson was able to flip those picks, some of those picks into more picks, and trade other veteran players off of that team. And the rest was history. You're never going to have another situation like that. Jerry is still living off of that. That was more than 30 years ago. And that's why it continues not to work for the Dallas Cowboys. It's one of those where they're a top heavy team. You have Dak Prescott who's getting paid a king's ransom. CD Lamb just re-upped. It's going to be time to pay Michael Parsons soon. And after that, you basically got 50 guys on that team. Okay. It was a joke that they brought back Ezekiel Elliott at running back this year. You look at some aging players on the offensive line. We just saw Trayvon Diggs. He's done for the season as well. So you take your pick. The Cowboys are another franchise that are a mess. They have a cap. We have a little bit better cap as far as like success than the Jets do. They can get to the playoffs. They can win a game, and that's going to be it. And I guarantee you this: the Cowboys are going to be right back at square number one next season. Why? Because I guarantee you, Jerry Jones is bringing Mike McCarthy back. That's the bottom line. And like I said before, it would have never worked with Bill Belichick in Dallas because Bill Belichick wants some say in personnel decisions, and Jerry Jones simply is going to say, eh. So that the bottom line, it wouldn't work. Happy Duck, you're also saying that Tom Brady cut his own pay to make his teams win and have full team morale. Hey, I'll tell you like this: Tom always took less in New England. He made his money through endorsements. Didn't hurt to have a rich wife at the time. And then, of course, he went down to Tampa, did the same thing. The band got back together, so to speak, down there. And of course, the rest was history. And at the end of the day, sometimes to get that success, you've got to make sacrifices. Everybody's not willing to make said sacrifices to get to that point. And we're seeing that issue with Jerry Jones. We're seeing it with Woody Johnson, where the base of this, me coming on here all began with. And that's, the issue with some of these teams. You got to check your ego at the door. And sometimes, in some cases, it starts at the top of the organization. Steve Peter, my good man, how are you doing this evening? Love the football emoji. And as always, man, you've been a right hand man to me for quite some time. And as always, I definitely appreciate the support. But like I said, folks, if you like what you saw and heard and what you're seeing on this podcast, please feel free to hit that like button as well as definitely subscribing to this channel. I've got a lot to talk about for the coming week, which begins tomorrow on Happy Duck. I know where your eyes are going to be tomorrow at about 4:25 Eastern. Darn good game on tap between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll tell you like this. Personally, I feel that the Eagles and Steelers are two of the better run and operated organizations in the National Football League. And I know we spent a good chunk right here talking about the New York Jets and their issues. We talked about Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. The reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers are consistently there. The reason why the Philadelphia Eagles are consistently there. First and foremost, it starts with the people that own and operate those organizations, and then of course it's a trickle down effect. Pittsburgh's going to be shorthanded tomorrow. No George Pickens again, a couple of other injuries. They're going to be up against it, but nonetheless, I think we're still in store for a very good game tomorrow between the Steelers and Eagles. I think both of those teams definitely have the potential to get to and win the Super Bowl. That's the type of seasons that both of them are having. But nonetheless, if you know, and like you're saying, Steelers best ran four major sports programs ever. I'll tell you like there's a lot of truth behind that. Okay. And I know a lot of other people talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it right now as well. Since 1969, Pittsburgh Steelers have only had three head coaches. That speaks of ownership because that's patience with your guys. And of course, a lot of organizations don't have that patience. Some other organizations would have run Chuck Noll out of town with the way that things started, but he was building things slowly but surely in the late 60s and early 1970s with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The rest is history. Uh, Bill Cowher had to be the guy who came in and replaced Chuck Noll. And under Cowher, Pittsburgh was consistently a playoff team. They couldn't get over that hump until they finally did in Cowher's last season. Mike Tomlin kept the ball going. And you think about the success that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had under him. Steelers never have had a losing record under Mike Tomlin. And I think if everybody's on the same page, I think Pittsburgh can be a very dangerous team come next month in the playoffs. But nonetheless, like I said, I've got a lot to talk about sports wise for the coming week. I want to recap, switching gears to another sport. Definitely want to recap things with Major League Baseball's winter meetings. There's a lot to uncover there. We've got the start of the college football playoff, the first 12-team college football playoff, which is less than a week away. I got a lot to talk about with that. Also, I got a lot to talk about as far as the action that we just saw or that we're about to see tomorrow in the National Football League. I think Bills Lions is going to be huge. The same thing with Steelers Eagles. Like I said, we got some good games on tap this coming Sunday tomorrow, of course, in the National Football League. So definitely keep your eyes and ears tuned on this channel. And once again, if you're enjoying this, please feel free to hit that like button. Please feel free to subscribe to this channel. And also, please don't be afraid to share it with a friend. If you know anybody that likes sports, definitely, you can tell them about the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Let them check it out. Let them see if they like it. They could make their decision. It's their prerogative. It's all good. But as always, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me on 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. Knicks 100, long time, but I definitely appreciate you tuning in. As always, my man, I appreciate the support. Happy Duck. I loved your comments, man. I truly do, man. It's not lip service. Definitely love the comments. TFX, what's going on? Long time no see, man. I might try to get another one in tonight. If not, definitely tomorrow, man. You've been a stranger, but I'm happy to see you back right now. And as always, Steve, my man, you know what? We go back, you and I, a long time. Not trying to give away our age here, but definitely appreciate the support. But that's going to do it on this edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Once again, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off and I'm saying thanks again for tuning into this YouTube channel. Be well, everybody, and have a good one.